Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Today is Friday, September 9th, and this is episode number 35. It has been a bit of a unique week. We've had a bunch of news that sort of more reveals about things than anything else. Some good reveals, some sad reveals, and just a whole bunch of sort of new stuff. Obviously, this weekend we have the Disney and Marvel Games Showcase tomorrow morning from the D23 Expo in Los Angeles, and then Sunday morning is the Ubisoft Forward event. So we're going to get news from both of those, and then next week is the Tokyo Game Show. So we're going to go through a lot of the scheduling, what events are coming up that you may want to watch. We'll go through those at the end of the episode. But for now, we're going to get stuck into the news, and we're going to talk about the Cyberpunk news, in that we actually have a crossover with the upcoming anime. So during the week, last week, they announced that they were doing a Night City Wire. Couldn't think of the word for a second. And the Night City Wire is their, it's their stream basically to talk about Cyberpunk news. It had been about 18 months since we had the last one. They did a whole bunch of them sort of, every month leading up to the release of the game. And then the release of the game happened and it bombed. So they didn't do anything outside of, the occasional Twitter post about updates. So they really kept things very, very small, which makes some sense. However, this one sort of popped up out of nowhere when they said, we're going to do one, because it was just so random. When they said it was about edge runners, people were like, okay, cool. So it's about the anime. And they said, no, it's also about the game. So they sort of had, they double dipped, if you will, in the one thing for content, which makes sense. Why not do it? So the first thing we're going to talk about is the update that's out for the game. So the game got an update. It's now version 1.6. One of the big things is there's a bunch of content from the anime. So Daniel Martinez, that's the anime character here. His jacket, his gun, and a few other bits and pieces he has are now wearable. So you can see V here has the yellow jacket on to match the same one. There is a trailer here that sort of cuts back and forth between everything. But one of the things that they did do is, they added a big patch. So if we just look here at the sort of pictures though. So, we've got the different looks of V. We've got a filter, a photo filter, I should say. I'll make that full screen. So, you can now overlay, Daniel's face onto your V and then, throw in a lot of effects and everything. There's new weapons, new skins, all sorts of stuff. But interestingly, the Roach Race game that's been in there since day one is now actually playable. So if you see a Roach Race console arcade machine in the game, you can go up to it and actually play Roach Race, which is, basically Roach from the Witcher series, getting into all sorts of mischief. And they also did release that as an iOS and Android game as well. So you can actually download Roach Race on your mobile phone. So there's a whole lot of stuff that they've done to it. There is a big patch notes thing. I won't go through that here, obviously, because it is full. It is a big thing. But they added some new missions. They fixed up some missions. Xbox Series S owners can now have the game in a high resolution, running at 60 frames. They brought that to it. So they did a lot of stuff in this update. It's not just adding cosmetics. They did a lot more to it than that, which I'm very, very happy for, because I've been playing through Cyberpunk now since launch, and I've cleared out all but like 2 of the missions. So I'm really at the end of things to do in that game, which does tie in nicely to the second bit of Cyberpunk news, and that is that the first expansion and the only expansion, Phantom Liberty, is coming in 2023. So Phantom Liberty, so the official name is Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, and it is coming out, as I said, in 2023. There's no date beyond the year, so it could be January 1st, unlikely, or it could be, December 31st, we don't know. The big thing though is that the expansion is only for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. So if you're still playing Cyberpunk on your PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, be it the base models of those or the enhanced models, this game will not, this expansion will not be available for it. So as part of the teaser, which I will not play because of copyright stuff, we do get to see that Johnny Silverhand is back and Keanu Reeves is back again voicing the character. It's set within a new region within Night City. So there is a zone in the map out in the Badlands, sort of if there's a highway that goes out sort of in the middle of the map. Above that highway, there's like a big sort of ridge line. If you go up to the top of that and go down the other side, you get warped out of it because, you know, they say you can't go in there yet. So it's probably where it's going to be. The sad news, if you will, is that there is no, you know, last gen version of this expansion, which, you know, given how many problems they had with the release of the game in the first place, you know, I can understand them not wanting to put themselves through the hassle again. The problem is, I bought one of the Xbox One X consoles that had the game, the controller, and you know, all sorts of stuff. And it was promised that as part of that purchase, I would be getting the DLC. The first DLC is what they said, which indicates that A, there was going to be more DLC than just the one piece they've now committed to, and B, that I would get it for my Xbox One X console. They've not acknowledged the fact that they're undercutting a promise that, you know, they sold people, which, given that, you know, they did this with the game itself, it shouldn't be too surprising, but it is, honestly, it's an insult that they've done this a second time. Now, I know that a lot of people will either A, not care that the DLC is not going to the last gen platforms, or you know, they've upgraded already to, you know, their platform of choice, so they're moving on anyway. But, you know, I have the card that says I get this DLC. I have the console that proves I get the DLC. And now the developers reneging on that promise, which, you know, is not a great look for them, given that this is the second time they've done this. You know, they blew the promise initially with what the game was supposed to be on the consoles, and now they're doing it again with the DLC. I have asked CD Projekt Red to explain why this decision was made. Now, in the you know, the brief information they did show at the end of the Night City Wire, they just said it was a technical reason. You know, that was it. That was the entire reason. They just said it's a technical reason, which again does make sense because, you know, they couldn't get the game to run smoothly on base model PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones. But, you know, the game does run there, so I can't imagine, you know, they're building a new engine for this thing. So again, it doesn't really make sense as to why they're not doing that. Moving on to some slightly better news, the Sega Mega Drive Mini 2 has been announced for Europe, but not for Australia. So the mini console fad has kind of gone away. It's kind of waned. So Nintendo really kicked it off with their NES Mini and then their Super NES Mini. PlayStation tried their hand with the PS1 Mini. They overpriced that dramatically and it bombed. You know, people are always like, oh, it doesn't have the games that I wanted, right? It was never going to have all the games people wanted, but they had a good selection. It was just priced too high and people didn't care. We've had the Commodore 64 Mini. We had the Mega Drive Mini, the first one. You know, it's been probably 4 or 5 others that I'm forgetting as well. But the Mega Drive Mini 2 was announced for Japan a while ago and the US a while ago. But during the week, Europe had their shipment confirmed. It is actually exclusive to Amazon in Europe. So if you do want it, you have to just go to amazon.co.uk. We have the story in the chat here. I'll throw the link here in there. So the price to have it shipped here from the UK is about 190 Australian dollars, so it wouldn't be a cheap import if you did want one. But the fact, you know, until a local release is confirmed, it is nice to see that we do have the game available, the Mini available to us through that method. What is interesting is there's 60 titles included in this. So even if you divide 190 by 60, you know, you're paying roughly $3, 10 cents for a game, which is, a pretty good deal. The only thing, as with all these minis, it doesn't come with a power cord. It comes with a HDMI, comes with a controller, comes with the machine, but it doesn't come with a power cord. It is a micro USB B type from memory, so you just have to use that. So the console, it just looks like the Mega Drive, just shrunk it down. The big controller is the same as the original. Now I do have the list of all the games here. I'm not going to read through them because that makes no sense. You might see things like Earthworm Jim 2 or Golden Axe 2 and go, oh, why aren't the first ones there? And you have to remember, this is the second time they've done this console range. So the Mega Drive Mini 1 had those games. They do have a few bonus games available as well for it. Not a big list, but there's plenty there as well. As I said, you can order it in direct from Amazon. It is expected to ship out at the end of October, so the 27th. So if you did order it today, you're probably not going to get it till maybe the middle of November, if not a little bit later. Which is not really a big thing. If you're willing to wait till October for it to ship, you're probably okay with waiting for a couple of weeks for it to get here. I'll be honest, I didn't think they were going to do anything more with the Mini 2. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere outside of the US, purely because the fad really has gone away. But I give Sega credit for sticking with it. They've also done some Game Gear stuff in Japan. They haven't released outside of Japan, but they keep doing a lot of these sort of things, so it is nice to see. Moving on to something I never thought we would see, and that is Ark Survival for Switch is getting ready to relaunch. So Ark Survival Evolved is a first-person survivalist game where the world you're inhabiting is full of dinosaurs. You start off with nothing. You have to punch trees to get wood and all sorts of stuff like that. And eventually you can make guns and as you can see here from the image, armor for your T-Rex and all sorts of stuff like that. The more that they added to the game, the more people thought it was never going to hit Switch because it was just such a gargantuan thing. But out of nowhere, the game did hit Switch a couple of years ago. It unfortunately was an atrocious port. It ran horrendous. It was buggy. You opened up a menu and it lagged. You made a change and it lagged. It was just not playable. Studio Wildcard, the developers of the game, they did not handle the Switch version of it, as most people don't. They always tend to offload Switch to other developers for them. They said, hey, we're gonna fix this at some point. We'll let you know. Earlier this year, they did say that it is coming. It is due out later this year. And as part of sort of PAX West-ish adjacent, we did have some information for the Switch version. So I will just put the footage up here on the screen. Now it is an over-the-shoulder thing. This is how they showed it off. They didn't, there's no direct capture, which, it's painful for when you want to see how good a game looks. But as you can see, this is a retail Switch. It's not a dev Switch. We know that because it's not the black Joy-Cons, it's the grey Joy-Cons. So if you ever see a Switch with like jet black Joy-Cons, that is a developer unit. That they usually have a little more RAM and a few extra bells and whistles to have developers be able to make their games and test them on the Switch, so to speak. So the fact that this is on a retail unit, one that you can walk into a shop and buy, does bode well for it. The only thing that sort of concerns me about it is that Grove Street Games are the developers that have been doing this version of Ark. So Grove Street Games also did the mobile version of Ark Survival Evolved. So if you're playing, if you have a mobile phone, you want to play the game there, it is available. But Grove Street Games are also the developers that managed to mess up the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. Correct me, Kaskia, on the Switch, like this version of it does look decent. Like it's not the most beautiful version of it, but it's still, it's a damn sight better than it was originally. So I said, like Grove Street Games, they fumbled GTA totally, and while they did do some fixes, you can't repair something when it's already gone, right? It's like trying to repair an airplane mid-flight. So for that reason, I'm a little cautious on this one, but Studio Wildcard have said, hey, we know we messed up with the first one, we're going to make sure this one's good. So, at least that's there. As for when this is actually coming out, it'll be out on October 25th. So if you already own Ark Survival Evolved, you'll get a free update to this particular version. And then if you don't have it, you'll be able to buy the game, on October 25 in this version of it. Also on that same day, the Ark series is getting a new thing called Dinosaur Discovery, which is basically, it's like a... Correct. I actually started playing it on early access for Xbox way back in the day, McCaskey. But yeah, so Dinosaur Discovery is like an educational mode for Ark that will let children sort of explore the world to learn about what dinosaurs, what they are, what they ate, how they behaved, all that sort of stuff. So if you think of it a bit like the Discovery mode for the Assassin's Creed games, where they take out all the combat and the enemies and let you wander the world and see what ancient Egypt was like, or what medieval England was like with Vikings and such like that. That'll be the same basic thing here, but for dinosaurs, which I think is very, very cool that they're doing it. It is going to all the versions of the game, so the PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, and mobile. It's just launching first on Switch. So yeah, you're right. It is very cool, McCaskey. It's one of those things where it makes sense now that you've sort of heard about it, but nobody ever considered doing it before. How accurate it ends up being, we'll have to wait and see. But I give them props at least for trying something a little different. Speaking of something a little different, we're going to pivot to some hardware now, and we're going to talk about the new Apple Watch. The reason why I wanted to talk about the Apple Watch Ultra isn't just because it's the new Apple Watch. There is actually another version of the Apple Watch they announced the other day. So it's the Apple Watch Series 8, which is just the sort of refinement of the main line. But the Ultra is sort of the heavy-duty version of the Apple Watch. There's two features that I really like about this. One, even if you're using it consistently, you should get roughly 36 hours in use. If you're using it very sparingly, like just a general, use it for notifications, tracking your steps, you'll get roughly 60 hours of battery life from this thing. So 2.5 days, which is kind of insane. The other thing that is really, really cool is that it has enhanced GPS capabilities. So we're seeing here on the screen it has a compass on it, which is kind of cool, but the compass will actually work as a compass. So if you're walking around and you bring your watch up, it'll actually say to you, hey, this is north over in this direction, right? And if you turn to face north, the screen, the compass on the screen will follow with you. But the enhanced GPS capabilities offer a new mode called Backtrack. And Backtrack is if you turn it on, when you leave urban areas, it will auto-enable for you. And basically what it does is it will mark the route you've taken on your, if you're going out to the middle of the bush to go for a walk for 10Ks, it'll mark the route you've taken. So when you go, cool, I'm done, how do I get back? You can actually just press the orange button on the side of the watch now. There's two buttons on either side, and it'll actually roll back. It'll tell you the direction using that compass and all that to direct you back through the exact same path you took to, where you activate it. So I think that's pretty cool. If you look at the picture here on the thumbnail, it is a very chunky boy. It's probably, maybe a third bigger than the current Apple Watches in terms of thickness, but it is a much bigger screen. I have an Apple Watch, the digital crown that's on the side here, it sort of peaks just above the top of the body, whereas on this one, you can see it's there's quite a bit of a gap between the two, the difference there. Something that is kind of cool as well, there are 3 different band types. So this is the trail band. This is for the runners, the people that have to adjust it all the time. They call this is the Alpine. No, hang on. Alpine loop. It is right. So this is for people that need it to grip continuously and not let go. And then this is the Ocean Band, and the Ocean Band is the most flexible of them. Because they say, as part of their marketing spiel, it will stretch to accommodate going over a wetsuit and dive gloves, because the Apple Watch Ultra is a certified dive watch as well. So you can actually sync up your oxygen tanks and all the bits and pieces you would normally have on a regular dive watch. You can keep it on your Apple Watch. So it's cool. But this this is something that I think is cool. It's when it goes to nighttime, you can actually rotate the crown on the side, and it will make everything this red color. So if you've ever done any sort of orienteering at night or exploration at night, even if you've gone camping, you'll find that if you turn on a torch, it ruins your night vision because it's such a bright light in a dark environment. Red lights, blue lights, and green lights will, that have such a diminished impact on your sight because, they're not as harsh. So this feature alone will be very handy for some people because, if they lift their watch up to their face to see, who sent them a notification, they're not going to get blinded. So I think that's kind of cool. In terms of price, though, it is expensive. It is 1,300 Australian dollars. Orders can be placed now for install pickup next Friday. That's the 23rd of September, along with all the other stuff. But then if you want delivery's another couple of weeks past that, looking sort of late October at this stage. But yeah, it is very, very cool. Now, they did obviously announce, as I said, the Series 8 Apple Watch, the new AirPod Pro Generation 2, the new iPhone 14, and the new iPhone 14 Pro series, which is what we're going to talk about now. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about the Pro series is because of the two features that they're really sort of harping on. The first is, I call it the notification oasis, but they call it the dynamic island, which is a stupid name. But this little black, pill-looking shape up the top here, if you have an iPhone 12, I think there was on the 12, maybe the 11, or a 13, you have that black bar that sort of sits at the top of the screen. That's where the camera is, the face camera, the IR camera, all that sort of stuff. That is still the case here, but it's actually a screen now as well. So when you close your music app, it'll go up to the top, and then you can tap that to bring sort of the controls in. So you don't have to keep swiping down from the top right of the phone to, see the one little music notification widget you wanted, right? It's available there on any screen. I think it's very, very cool. I don't think it's going to take off the way Apple want, because who's going to design features for this, if it's only on this one specific phone. The other thing too is the new camera. It is a staggering 48 megapixel camera, which is roughly 4 times the capacity of the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which is what I have. I have the 13 Pro Max here, and my camera on this one is 4 times less effective than the iPhone 14 Pro. So with this particular photo, this was taken with it on the Apple website. They have a little video that you can watch, and they zoom right into the sort of this area of the beach here, and you can see all the rocks and everything. So, if it behaves the way they claim, it could be a very, very cool thing. Prices for this, though, the iPhone 14 Pro is $17.49 and goes up from there, and then the iPhone 14 Pro Max is $18.99. So, $1,750 or $1,900, and it goes up. A few other features that are pretty cool is the phone also has, again, that enhanced GPS that the Apple Watch Ultra has, that allows you to connect to satellites now. So if you're in the middle of the outback, no phone service, no Wi-Fi, no internet of any kind, and you break down, you'll be able to actually use your phone, as long as you're, outdoors, and connect to a satellite to, alert emergency services. The other thing too is now lock screens. You can personalize the lock screen. You can put on, widgets to say, this is, these are the things I want to pay attention to. Maybe your watch battery, your AirPod battery, things like that. On the iPhone 14 series, the display will now allow you to always have it on, so you can always see things without having to wake the phone up. But the actual, customizable lock screens will be on all devices. In terms of overall features, the 14 series doesn't seem to be too drastic. They've done bumps to the camera. They've reshaped the little sort of camera bar at the very top of the phone. But other than that, it all seems to be mostly software driven. which is cool. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's one of those things where, you know, if it's there on software, you probably don't need to upgrade your phone. Now I will throw this YouTube video in the chat. This is a sort of a really big deep dive into what the phones offer. It is, you know, it's a 9-minute video. They go through all the features, you know, in a campy marketing sort of way, but it's still worth watching if you're interested. Sticking with the hardware side of things, we actually have details on the new Xbox Elite controller. So called the Elite Core, a new one that we're seeing on the screen, the white one, it is the same controller that exists now in the Elite 2. It is, apart from the obvious thing that it is white. So if we just bring up the picture here, so it has the same, you know, multi-mode, so you can have presets. You can, you know, you get the little tools so you can tighten or loosen the sticks depending on what you prefer. The big difference between the Elite 2 and the Core, or the Elite Core, which is the white one, apart from, you know, a price tag of about $60, is that the Core version of the controller does not come with any back paddles. So there's none of these options here. So there's no charging dock, there's no bits and pieces, it's just the controller. So if you just want a heftier controller that you can sort of adjust the triggers or tighten the sticks on, this is for you. If you want everything, then you need to get the Elite controller. The big thing though that Microsoft are doing is they're also now selling what they're calling the component pack. So if I click down, I do have a picture of it. I should have a picture of it. I don't. I have the listing. So the component pack comes with another D-pad, different sticks, as I said, the paddles, case, and the dock. So all the bits and pieces you get with the Elite, you can buy separately for your Core version later on, if you so desire. The catch, though, is because there wouldn't be a Microsoft thing without a little catch. The Elite Core controller is $190 Australian, and the component pack is $80 Australian, bringing the total to $270. Whereas the Elite 2, so the standard one that's been out for a while now, is $250 with everything. So if you want everything day one and you don't care about the color, you get the Elite 2 because that's the black one. It comes with all the bits and pieces. If you really have to have white, or you know, you really just don't need anything other than the controller now, the Elite Core is the one you want. So yeah, it's a bit weird that they've done it that way. I can get where they're coming from, you know, offering a cheaper way for people to get in, but you know, $70 for, you know, essentially the back paddles is a bit much. Interestingly though, like EB Games, JB Hi-Fi, they do sell, you know, replacements of third-party paddles. So if you know, only want to spend say $15 or $20, you can just buy those at one of those retailers. The other thing that Xbox didn't really talk up, but you know, they should have, is that the Elite controller will actually be available in the Xbox Design Lab later in the year. So at the moment, the Xbox Design Lab is just the standard Series X controller. Going forward, it will be either the Series X controller or the Elite controller. So you actually have a choice of which one you want to customize. So you'll be able to have your Elite controller, you know, with your custom face, colors, and all that sort of stuff, which is a very nice addition. You know, they just needed to talk that one up a little bit more. Now there is no date for when that will join the service, but it, you know, it shouldn't be too far beyond that. Staying within the world of hardware, we actually had a new version of the Switch OLED announced during the week, themed to Pokemon. So this is actually the third Pokemon-themed Switch that has come out, but this is the first time we've seen it for the, you know, the main sort of console or the non-light version. So we had the Sword and Shield, had the sort of grey Switch Lite a couple of years ago, and then last year we had the black Switch Lite for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, there is this new OLED model Switch. So this will be the third OLED variant around. So there is the standard white variant console. There's the Splatoon one, which launched a couple of weeks ago, which I did have, but mine died. It encountered a catastrophic hardware failure out of nowhere. So, you know, that's all gone back to Nintendo. And then there's now this Pokemon-themed one. As you'll see here on the dock, you know, we've got Miraidon and Koraidon, the legendary Pokemon. You know, they basically behave as bikes for you. The back of the console features, you know, the iconography of, you know, the 3 starter Pokemon, you know, Fuecoco, Sprigido, and Quaxley, along with the icons for the 2 schools, and a whole bunch of icons from around the world. The Joy-Cons themselves come in both the scarlet and violet colors, complete with this, you know, corresponding straps. And again, they feature the logos for the different schools. So the Scarlet game has, you know, it's the same school, same principle, same layout, but basically the banners are different. And that's what this icon is. It's the Scarlet School, and that's the Violet School icon. The dock itself, as we saw on, you know, up above, the front has the picture of the Pokemon. The back is essentially nothing except for this little quarter Pokeball in the corner here, which I think is very, very cute. The only thing that sort of really concerns me about this one is on the dock here, you'll see that they've got this sort of like, you know, line going through showing how, you know, it looks in, you know, in direct light and not direct light. That's not, you know, just marketing. The dock is classified as a glossy dock. So the Splatoon one, the Animal Crossing one, the Monster Hunter one, the Smash Brothers one, you know, the regular one, the OLED white one, none of them have been glossy. They are shiny as a matter of, you know, because they are plastic, but they're not marketed as glossy. This is actually marketed as a glossy dock, which is kind of, you know, it's a little weird to do. I get why, you know, you wouldn't be touching it all the time, but you know, that's what they've said it is for. So, you know, I'll just let the video play here. I think it's cute. I don't care about the back of it. I think the back is a little too much of the Switch. The Splatoon one that did just come out, the back of that Switch is also covered in icons, but they're sort of a muted, you know, light, like a dark grey, you know, matte black sort of thing. So they're very subtle, whereas this one is anything but subtle. So, yeah, as I said, like the dock's there, you know, the print looks fine. The fact that it's glossy though, that's the part that concerns me. So it is coming out here November 4. The price is, you know, the same as the regular Switch and the Splatoon Switch, so $549.95. Orders can be placed now, like EB Games put their orders online earlier today. Much like the Splatoon one, it's one per customer, one Switch Pokemon OLED per customer. But you know, if you do want one, you'll have to get your order in sooner rather than later because it is a limited item. Finally, the last piece of hardware-related news is back in the world of PlayStation. It's a bit weird. We've had Xbox news, Nintendo hardware, and now PlayStation hardware. It's not common we get that. But the PlayStation news is that there's a new color scheme coming called Grey Camo. So Grey Camo is exactly what it sounds like. It is a grey camo pattern. This is not the first time we've seen a camo pattern from PlayStation. They've done a few over the years themed to Call of Duty. We've had the controller on its own. We also had a Call of Duty camo. It was a Call of Duty World War II console as well back in the day. But this is now a new line. So much like they're doing with the other colors of the PlayStation 5 shells, they're doing the actual prints on their own. So you don't have to buy a specific console. You can just buy the face plates essentially and swap them out. The DualSense controller and the 3D audio headset, they are ones you have to buy. What's cool about the actual pattern is on the, you can see here on the controller, in the very light grey, they've actually embedded the PlayStation iconography. So the square, X, circle, and triangle, icons. So when you're looking at the faceplate, all these light grey areas feature, they all have that sort of print through them. Same with the headset. You can sort of see it barely in that picture. This is not the first time they've done this. They did something similar on the camo print back in the PS4 days. The Star Wars consoles that they've done back in the PS4, they had a similar thing. On the touchpad, it said Star Wars, repeatedly, and on top of the console and that as well. So it is very, very cool. Now, in terms of getting these, I did put the date in there. October 14 is when the DualSense controller and the console covers will be available, but the Pulse headset won't be available until December. So you'll be able to get the controller and the faceplates in October, but the headset is not until December. Interestingly, in Europe, the headset is only available through PlayStation themselves, not through retailers. We haven't had that announced for here yet because PlayStation Australia do not sell things direct to customers, so it'll likely just be in stores. It may be exclusive to one retailer, or it may be available through all. We just don't know yet because they've not announced those details. I like the look of the camo print on like the headset. I think it is too much for the console. I think that is just, it's too much plastic to have a print that big on it, because the PlayStation 5 is a behemoth of a machine. I don't know. This doesn't appeal to me personally, but I know some people, I've seen some people, online talking about how, they're very happy that it's not just another, it's not like another pink or another purple or another blue or, whatever we always seem to get from PlayStation. But yeah, so Xbox are now the only ones that haven't released variants of the consoles in different colors. They've done their competitions, like there was one recently for the Elder Scrolls here in Australia. Bethesda Australia hosted, they made up this console, so they had that. There's been other places that have done things, but Xbox themselves, you can't go in and buy different look Series X outside of the Halo one. So this is sort of, nice to see PlayStation continuing to keep that trend alive. Moving back into the world of Pokemon, we actually got a bunch of details for the upcoming game thanks to a new trailer. Specifically, we got details on the 3 quest lines that are available to players. So we knew that there were 3 quests, and one of them would be the gym, the road to victory is what they call it, or path to victory. Where you go from gym to gym to gym, battle the gym leader, collect the badge. Once you have all 8 badges, you go on the the Champions Road, you beat the Elite Four and all that sort of stuff. That's been the general consensus of every Pokemon game since the first one, and that is still here in this one. We knew that a while ago. The 2 other ones are ones we didn't know about until this week. So Path of Legends is where you will venture out into the world to locate what they call rare ingredients, specifically this Herba Mystica. So this new Pokemon here, this crab-looking guy, he's a new Pokemon you'll encounter as part of that quest in a Behemoth mode. I do actually have a screenshot of him. Let me bring that up. There he is. So that's Sprigito. That's the grass cat starter Pokemon. So you can see the size difference. Yeah, so that's one of the quest lines, and then the third one is called Starfall Street, where you will undertake battles against Team Star, which are a group of delinquents from your school. That's a very Japan thing. It's not just a kid who's having a rough time. They're delinquents, and they have to be in a gang, and they have to do bad things all the time because they are delinquents. So those are the 3 the quests, if you will, the quest lines. You can elect to do Victory Road first, you can elect to do Starfall Street first, you can elect to do Path of Legends, or you can do none of them and just explore the world. So that's sort of the big thing for this Pokemon game, is that it's not from point A to point B to point C to point D. It's point A to point Epsilon to point 7 to point Z to point Beta to point Gamma to point B. So it's all over the place, and it's entirely up to you. As you would have seen, we did get 3 new Pokemon announced. So this is Armorage. He is exclusive to the Scarlet version of the game. And this is Ceruledge. He is exclusive to the Violet version of the game, as you can tell by the colors. And then finally, as I said, is Clorf. He's the big crabby guy. It is great to see, some details around the 3 main quest modes. I will say though, this is the 3rd video for Pokemon in like 3 weeks. We had one last week where they announced 1 Pokemon. There was a video a couple weeks ago where they announced another Pokemon. Hopefully that is not the case. We're not going to be seeing these things, dripped out over every week until the game releases in November, because, that's just too much news. But now that we've sort of got the main core details about the gameplay and all that sort of stuff, the mechanics of things, hopefully that sort of tapers off. Moving on in the back into the world of games, we're going to look at new Tales from the Borderlands. So new Tales from the Borderlands is, as the name says, a new Tales from the Borderlands game. So while this is connected to the Tales of the Borderlands series and the greater Borderlands universe, it is not a sequel to the Tales of the Borderlands game that came out a number of years ago from Telltale Games. So if you have never played that one, you are not coming into this one out, completely unprepared. Some of the characters from that and the greater Borderlands universe will appear in this game, but it is not mandatory to know them. So at PAX West, they did drop, a live version of this, but as part of it, they did release this gameplay reveal. It's about 18 minutes long from memory, and it showcases a whole bunch of stuff. Don't need your notes. So one of the things that they've done is I got to talk with some of the developers earlier on before this went, before they actually had their panel, and I got to ask some questions and learn more about the game specifically. So I will pop that here in the chat. The big thing for this new game is that, one of the things they've done in games past, let me just skip ahead in the video, is when you make a decision, it always popped up on the screen from Telltale like, da-da-da, we'll remember that. So what they've done now is they've enhanced the motion capture for the actors. So the faces that you're seeing, it's very much like LA Noire, where you have to pay attention to the expressions that people have on their faces. Because if Octavio here we see in a moment, you can pick between Octavio's plan or Fran's plan. When you pick Octavio's, he gets excited, and you see sort of Fran, she frowns. Fran frowns, because she doesn't like going slow. She wants to be violent. In the gameplay that I saw, we picked Fran's plan, and she got shot in the end. But when Fran was selected, Octavio said nothing, but he responded, very, he was like, oh, he was let down about the fact that his plan wasn't selected. So it is interesting that they're focusing more on that. So it's not just a matter of you make a decision and then text appears. You have to pay attention to the reaction, because sometimes you'll make a decision and the reaction may not be that somebody's sad. It could be that somebody's angry or somebody's just indifferent, but you have to pay attention to it. The other thing that we got to see as part of this trailer, let me skip ahead here to this weird thing, is this mini game called Vaultlanders. Vaultlanders is a figurine fighting game. So there is this is the only mandatory one in the game, this particular sequence. You have to do it. After that, you don't have to play Vaultlanders ever again if you don't want to. As you can see, Fran's saying, no, you can't interfere, this is a thing for Vaultlanders now, rah rah rah. They go nuts with this Vaultlander stuff. It's very weird. But it's basically Street Fighter with figurines. If I skip ahead to the combat, it's sort of a third person, over the shoulder view, which reminds me of Street Fighter from the 3DS. They had that 3D view. As long as you input the right buttons and don't make a mistake, you'll do all the attacks. If you do miss one, your opponent will have a chance to attack and you have to dodge the attacks. It's pretty straightforward stuff. It does look fun. The whole thing, again, is, it's all about choice. What was interesting is that, there are a number of what they call hard endings, which is basically, one of them, I got to see when Fran got shot. She's a main character, she can't die there. So, that's when we went back and did Octavio's path. What they had shown is, later on there's a thing where Fran can get shot. And if she gets shot, she'll get shot in the shoulder. And, then you have to try and find medical aid for her, which, it takes the story off in a different direction for a while. Whereas if you successfully avoid her getting shot, you stay on the main path. So the decisions you make, throughout the entire thing will change the course of the game. Now, obviously, as decisions, as these games, go, you have to make these decisions. Sometimes you have to be pretty quick with the responses. I did ask the question about, what about accessibility? Will the game just say, hey, you failed to press the buttons successfully in the order for like 4 times in a row, let's just skip you ahead? No, that is not what the game will do. So if you are playing the game and you get stuck, you can actually go into the settings and just say, no, give me more time to make it to, do the button presses, right? So, if your reaction time isn't as instantaneous as some people's, you can give yourself more time. If, however, that's still too hard for you, you're still not able to get it, you can actually just remove the specific buttons and just any button will do. So, we saw in that little fight, it was like up, down, left or something. You could just have it, you could just press A 5 times and that is the same. That's a successful input, string. So, the game isn't going out of its way to, help you along, but it's giving you the tools should you need to. And then the other thing too is you can change that. So if you get stuck at a specific point and you just can't get past it, modify those settings, get past it, and then you can put them back, which I think is kind of cool. Moving on for something that's a little different, but we've talked about these things a few times, is that Deathloop is getting a vinyl record print from Laced Records. So there are 2 versions of the soundtrack for Deathloop. There is the 4-disc print, which was out of stock when I posted the story, and then there's the 2-disc print. So the 2-disc print, only comes with like 19 tracks. The 4-disc print comes with like 37 or 57, something like that. 59. There we go. The 4-disc comes in a standard black, or you can get the coloured one. As always with these things, that's like $80, £80, which is about $130, $140 plus shipping. So you're looking around $200 to get them. But the Deathloop soundtrack is very, very cool. It's got sort of a jazzy 60s soundtrack going for it. So if you're somewhat interested in that music, that is definitely something to look forward to. Now we're going to talk about some showcases. So we're just going to run through the NIS America one that happened yesterday, and then we'll get into some of the ones coming up in the next few days. This is obviously a very, very busy time because Tokyo Game Show is coming up. So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening from that. And there is a lot of companies having showcases. But with those showcases, not all of them are going to be in English, and not all of them are going to be aimed at anyone outside of Japan, even if they do have English subtitles. So it's very important to know that going in, that some of these showcases, they may have news that is relevant to gamers globally, but they may not be aimed at gamers globally. Okay, so just be aware of that. So let's jump into the NIS America stuff first, though. So NIS America had a showcase. They announced 4 new games, well, technically 3 new games and a remaster, and dated another one. So in terms of the titles, most are coming to, all of them are coming to Switch and PlayStation 4. A few of them are also coming to PlayStation 5. There's no Xbox announced or PC for these 4 games. All of them at the moment have a release window of autumn next year, so sometime between, the 1st of March and the 31st of May. We don't know anything beyond that yet for them. Monster Menu, the Scavenger's Cookbook. It is a dungeon crawler, resource scavenging game. The trailer unfortunately does not provide any sort of interesting, thing. It is just a thing. It reminds me a little bit of Disgaea, sort of the more recent Disgaea. They have sort of a bit of a free, free roaming sort of battle system. This is very, very similar to that. It looks interesting. It looks very cute. Obviously, Disgaea 7 is coming. We don't have an English release for that though yet. Process of elimination. You basically become a wannabe detective to try and track down a serial killer who's hiding among your group of friends. Grimoire Once More is a remastering of the PlayStation 2 strategy game from Vanillaware. So this game, as I said, exists on PlayStation 2. This is just the modern update to that game. It looks, as with all these Vanillaware games, it looks beautiful because it's they focus a lot on that sort of stuff. Even though it is a remaster, it still looks a little dated because they can only do so much remastering before it starts to become a remake. But, you know, again, it's a vanillaware game, so it should be very fun. You know, and even if it's not, you know, fun to play, it'll still be, you know, nice to look at. We also got the news that Void Terrarium 2 is getting a, you know, is here. So the Void Terrarium game came out a couple of years ago. It did pretty well. This is just a sequel to that one. For everything but Switch, we got a release date for Raiden 4 Ex Mikado Remix, which is a shmup. It is already out on Switch, so Switch isn't forgotten. It launched first on Switch. This is just now coming to the other platforms. That'll be out here on February 10th. Now, as I said, looking at the showcases that are coming up. So with all the showcases, you know, I've put together a big list. You know, as showcases get added, events get added, they'll be added to this. So tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. will be the Disney and Marvel Games Showcase. There's a few things that I already know that will be in there, so it should be very good for a number of people. Then Sunday morning, as I said, is the Ubisoft Forward event. We know the new Assassin's Creed will be announced there. We know Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope will be there, and Skull and Bones. It is highly likely that Just Dance 2022 will be announced during the showcase, because it hasn't been announced yet, and you know, Ubisoft love Just Dance because it's easy money for them. During the week, we got the Ryuga Gotoku Summit. So RGG is the studio that develops the Yakuza games. So Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is their most recent one, and the Judgment series. They're hosting a showcase on Wednesday at 8 p.m. We don't know, you know, if they're going to talk about, you know, the Yakuza Like a Dragon sequel that they're developing, if it's going to be something new, if it's going to be the mobile game that's around in Japan. We don't know. Now this one is interesting because, you know, it was announced during a Japanese stream, but Sega in the US did, you know, say, hey, this is happening, here's the link to our Twitch stream, which does indicate there should be some sort of international you know, flavor for this one. On the 15th at 2:30 in the morning, all these times will be in Australian Eastern Standard Time. The full details are in there, so if I click into this one, you'll actually see the full breakdown of the times, and you can also add it to your calendar if you prefer. But the idea at Xbox, Twitch Indie Showcase is happening. They do these 2 or 3 times a year. This is just another one. The showcase starts at 2:30 a.m. for the pre-show, where there'll be a few games in that, and then at 3 a.m. is when the full thing kicks off. They generally go for an hour. They're fine. They're not really, you know, it's not packed with you know, world premieres and all that sort of stuff. Unless you're a diehard indie player, I wouldn't get up at 3 in the morning to watch this. I'd just wait for, you know, when you wake up normally and watch the replay. Also on Thursday from Xbox will be the Tokyo Game Show showcase from them. Now, this is going to be focused on Japan and the Asian countries, so Korea, Hong Kong, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, we do get some international news from Xbox through these. Last year we had the Scarlet Nexus release into Game Pass during it, and the Flight Simulator update where they, you know, announced the world update for Japan. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Now, this is where things get really complicated. So that showcase is 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Then Bandai Namco are hosting a showcase. All right, their showcase is later on, but they're starting their stream early at 8:30 p.m. That is the first. They're doing 3 days worth of these sort of like 4 or 5 hour, you know, chunks, but this is sort of the one we're focusing on. That's at 8:30. At 9 o'clock, the Square Enix one kicks off. Now, the Square Enix stuff is a little different. This one is all focused on, it's just the one thing from memory. Where are we? Let's see, I did put the stream together, I think. Yes, it's just all on Star Ocean. So there's nothing too special about that one for Square Enix. Then at midnight, at 12 a.m. on the 16th, so a few hours after the Square Enix and the Bandai and the Xbox one have all finished up, there's a Capcom showcase. Capcom announced today that it will feature Street Fighter 6, which you knew about. There's a dedicated stream after this one for that. Mega Man Battle Network, Resident Evil Gold, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, and Exoprimal will be in it. There may be a release or two, like a new title announced, but that's what we know for sure. That's a Friday at midnight. Then, that finishes at 2 a.m. once the Street Fighter stream ends. Half an hour later, the Call of Duty stream kicks in for Call of Duty Next. Now, that is going to deep dive into the multiplayer for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which is coming out in October. It'll showcase, the future of the Warzone game mode. It'll talk about Warzone for mobile, and, whatever else is going on for Call of Duty. It'll also be, we'll see a whole bunch of gameplay for it. At 6 p.m. on the 16th, we'll also see the second day of the Square Enix showcase. Now, this is the one where they said, do watch this one, because, there'll be some stuff specifically related to the Saga series in that one. But it'll be the third day is when there's a dedicated, you have to watch this, it'll be in English. Bandai Namco will have their second one. They start at 7 p.m. It'll go through till 12:30 a.m. At 7 p.m. also on the 16th, 505 Games are hosting their showcase. We know for them, let me open it up. So Yuden Chronicles will be in there, Gunfire Reborn, Stray, Stray Blade, Nivels and a few others will be included in that. At 9 p.m. we'll see the Sega and Atlas showcase. This is going to be an hour long. It'll focus on stuff from both Sega and Atlas, so Persona 5 Royal, Sonic Frontiers, stuff like that. At 10 p.m. will be the Konami showcase. Konami will have some interesting news regarding some popular series from their past. For those hoping for Metal Gear, it is very unlikely that we'll see anything Metal Gear related, purely because there's a whole lot more with licensing and rights for that one than anything else. So just be aware of that one. On the Saturday at 4 p.m. will be the one where we have the Valkyrie Elysium and Harvestella stuff. So Valkyrie Elysium is launching, I think it's this month. Yeah, I'm going to say it's this month. Yes, later this month for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, but the PC release is not happening until November 11th. Also in November on the 4th is when Harvestella is releasing, so that's there. Bandai Namco are hosting their third day of content on the Saturday. Saturday is also when we'll get the Koei Tecmo showcase. That's a couple of hours worth of stuff. We know that Wolong Fallen Dynasty, which is their new game they announced back at E3, or the non-E3 E3, that'll be there as well. And then Square Enix will be there on the Sunday for another 4 or so hours of streams. So all this is just showcasing that there is a lot happening over the course of a few days at the end of next week. Minecraft just announced in October they're doing their event as well, so I have to add that still in there. But yeah, it just shows that there's so much more happening with Tokyo Game Show. And again, some of this content isn't going to be relevant to us here in Australia because it may be focused exclusively on Japan. So last year there was a Square Enix presentation. They didn't talk about anything outside of anything that was leaving Japan. They spent like a good half an hour on it talking about Dragon Quest X offline. Dragon Quest X exists, so Dragon Quest 9 was on the 3DS, Dragon Quest 11 was PS4, 3DS, Switch, now Xbox, PC, it's on everything. But Dragon Quest X was on the PS3, PS4, and Wii, I think at the time. It's now on Switch, and it's an MMO, but it never left Japan. And because of the amount of the servers and translation of everything, it was never going to leave Japan. But then they announced Dragon Quest X offline. They basically just made it a solo experience. So it's like 5-6 years worth of content available without the need to be connected to the internet. So they announced that last year, but as always, that was for Japan only. And at this stage, that's not changed. It's still Japan only, but that's the sort of thing that they do in these events. So if you do plan on watching, sometimes they'll have English subtitles available. Sometimes they'll live dub it. If it's a live showcase, they may do live translations, which we've seen happen more and more lately. They do also like to pre-record segments to stick them in there. Those things generally have subtitles on them as well if they're pre-recorded. So, as I said, there is a lot happening over the next sort of 7 to 10 days. and it kicks off tomorrow morning with the Disney Game Showcase. Now, looking forward... sorry, let me start that again. That's the end of all of our news. So now we're just going to talk about the games coming out over the next 7 days. So obviously, again, we generally don't have releases, over the weekend, so there should be anything for the 10th or the 11th. That being said, so we do have the Disney Showcase tomorrow and the Ubisoft Showcase on Sunday. So they may shadow drop something, if they're feeling generous. So we're looking ahead for Monday the 12th through to Friday the 16th. So there's nothing really on Monday. The 12th, the 13th, we'll see Little Orpheus release. It's an Apple Arcade game at the moment. It'll be coming to all platforms on Tuesday. Sunday Gold will be getting its PC release on Tuesday as well, along with Voice of Cards, The Beast of Burden, we're getting PC, also Switch and PS4, and then also on Switch will be 13. On the 15th, which is the really big day next week, we'll see Bear and Breakfast get its Switch release. It's already available on PC. So Dragon Quest X Offline is launching in Japan next week, but we're not getting that here. Dungeons 3 is getting a Switch release next week. Metal Hellsinger is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. That is one of those shoot to the beat games that is apparently becoming really popular. Outer Wild is getting its next generation update next week as well. So PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S will get that game. If you already own it on the same console family, you'll get the upgrade to the next generation version for free. And then ending off the week, we will see SBK 22, which is another bike game from Milestone Interactive. So it's not a very, very busy week. Obviously today's busy, with NBA 2K23 and Splatoon 3, launching. There's a lot of stuff that's happened already this week. So next week is a bit quieter, and then the week after we'll be back to some busier stuff. Right. With that being said, that does bring us to the end of the show, which means it's time for the usual outro stuff. We do record these every Friday at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We will be ending these earlier this year than was maybe thought of, because I will be going on holidays for a couple of weeks, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So the last one of the year will be on the 25th of November. We might do a Christmas special, later in the year, but until then, we'll just stick with this current schedule. On Tuesday, we're back with more Games Bond, where we are on our final game of the series. So we're playing through the GoldenEye remake on the Wii. I know we could play it on the Xbox or the PlayStation for better visuals, but the Wii for the controllers is what we're doing it for. That's the 13th game, so we've played through 13 James Bond games over the year. So it's probably going to take us most of September, if not into October, to get through that game, so it should be very, very good. We do those again at 7 o'clock, so 7 till 9 on Tuesday for Games Bond, and then Maxi-Geek Show at 7 p.m. on Fridays. But yeah, that does bring us to the end. So if you did watch the video, do consider giving us a like, hitting the follow button if you're on Twitch, subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Otherwise, until we see you online again next time, happy gaming.